Hello, I'm Erick Alonso. I'm part of the MaMa family, and welcome to MaMa Conversations. At MaMa, we do something crazy like 60 productions a year, and we end up in conversations, whether it's a marketing meeting, a production meeting, a rehearsal, or a friend from the 65 years of legacy that we have. And we leave the room, or at least I leave the room feeling, oh, people should know about this person. Oh, people should hear this story. So we want to welcome to today's conversation with the Morgan Jenness Obie Award recipient of this year, Nicky Paraiso. Morgan once said to me when she realized that I was working for MaMa, you should pay attention to Nicky Paraiso. So let's pay attention to Nicky Paraiso. Hi, Nicky Paraiso.
Hi, Eric.
Welcome. How are you feeling today? Let's start with how are you feeling? Are you feeling tired? Are you feeling happy, sad, hungry? Where are you at in your body?
I'm feeling okay. I'm probably a little bit hungry. I haven't eaten today. Oh, I shouldn't say that on camera.
Guide me through what's a day, like a morning in Nicky's life. What did you do today? What time you wake up? Did you have coffee? What do you do? What was your morning like today?
Well, it was about getting ready for this interview. So, yes, you're lucky I even got up from from bed. So that I'm here. I'm very happy to be here. Yes, I'm very glad that you asked me for this interview because this is it seems this is a very special weekend.
It is a very special weekend. Where were you when you first heard that you were going to receive this award?
Oh, well, I had just been traveling in Poland, of all places, Lublin, Poland, and I had been there for a week for a dance festival. And the moment I got home, it was a Thursday morning, I turned on my phone and there was this email in my phone saying, congratulations. I said, what? Congratulations for what? And we have good news for you. It says the Obie Judges Committee has decided to award you with an Obie this year. It was awarded I thought it was very funny, for your remarkable work. I said, what remarkable work? I'm not even in a show. And, but apparently it has something to do with, well, there's something about longevity in this business that we do. So we call it a business, or this thing we call art. If performing arts, to be specific. Yeah, so sometimes you have to wait 50 years.
50 years.
To get this kind of recognition. And, I think it's a good thing. I think especially actors and performers and theater artists in general like to be recognized for their work. So I'm very happy about this recognition, and it comes from a group of people who are on the panel, the Obie panel this year, who are who are also artists that I admire and respect. So I feel honored to be recognized by them as a group.
Let me read something so you can hear it out loud. You've read it, but I don't know if someone has read this to you. This is what's written on the actual award.
Oh my God, okay.
If anyone embodies the living history, present and future of New York's turbulent and ever-blooming downtown performance scene, it is this writer, musician, actor, dancer, performance artist, curator, and producer. It is hard to imagine an artist in New York who has not been impacted somehow by him, including the legendary Meredith Monk, John Jesurun, Anne Bogart, and Jessica Hagedorn. to just name a few, but also the countless emerging artists he mentors and uplifts. While exploring Pinoy queerness in his own work, he has championed others as a curator, giving them a platform in the club at La MaMa and at the La MaMa Moves Dance Festival, which just celebrated its 20th anniversary. No one is more full of heart, more eager to celebrate their colleagues, and more willing to support new voices. Nicky is everywhere, seeing everything, and when he believes in you, he makes sure you know. That's true. It is the judges' pleasure to bestow this inaugural Morgan Jenness Award, named in honor of his dear friend and collaborator, to Nicky Paraiso. What does it feel to hear that?
Well, that's a lot to digest. Part of me feels like it's a bit over the top, but then on the other hand, I think that perhaps they got it right, or at least some of it right. And I thank you again, Obie Judges panel, for recognizing some of the things that I do as a theater worker. So what else? I don't know.
Well, you and I were friends with Morgan.
Morgan.
I often say that she was my mentor, sister, friend. She was there for me as a mentor, but she also was with me through one of the hardest times in my life. And when she realized, I think she was instrumental in me coming to La MaMa. And when she realized that I was going to be working with La MaMa, she said, "You got to pay attention to this Nicky Paraiso." What do you think she meant by that?
I have no idea.
How did you meet Morgan? Do you remember?
Yes. How did I meet Morgan Jenness? Dear Morgan. It's so difficult. It's so hard to think that she's not here or she's not at La MaMa now watching the matinee.
Yeah.
But I met Morgan actually through another dear friend. His name was Bill Hart. And Bill Hart was also one of the dramaturgs at the Public Theater where Morgan worked.
Yep.
And they were both literary managers at different times. And Bill was also a theater director and who also had been a visual arts curator. He managed an art gallery in Soho called Razor Gallery. And some of the first graffiti artists were on exhibit at the Razor Gallery due to Bill Hart. So, so Bill Hart would go to the theater, sometimes with Morgan. They would both go out to the theater, and sometimes I would tag along, so to speak. And that's how I got to begin to know who Morgan was. And Morgan's a very, very special person, with a very special spirit. And perhaps some of us think that she was actually quite spiritual, and also very down to earth at the same time. And she was a mentor, teacher, advisor, and literary playwriting dramaturg for many people, not just playwrights, but other fellow actors and directors and designers. It was a very special moment when Morgan took an interest in who you are and what you do. And she had very pithy comments about that, sometimes not very much, and sometimes a lot. So, it was very special to have Morgan as even to be a part of my growing up life as a young artist, and that was very important to have her say certain things and at particular moments, usually around a dinner table after seeing a show. Because Morgan was out seeing shows every single night.
Everywhere.
She would be at a play or a new musical or a reading.
And she knew everybody.
And she knew everybody. So I was just very honored to observe and be part of that, shall we say, inner circle of theater practitioners. Yeah.
How many years were you friends?
Oh, when did I meet Morgan? Because I knew Bill first. That was I bet Bill in 1979, because he came to see a performance of Jeff Weiss at La Mama. That was my first, one of my first performances at La Mama was with the great playwright, performer, actor, Jeff Weiss. And there was this gentleman sitting on the floor, and it was the second floor theater, which later became the club. And Ellen Stewart was there. It was the final performance of That's How the Rent Gets Paid Part 3.
So what
it was
year
a
is this?
series of plays that Jeff did under that the rubric, that title, That's How the Rent Gets Paid, which is very apt, I thought. And anyway, I met Bill Hart there at the second floor theater at La Mama. And then I met Morgan a little bit later.
So what year is this?
Maybe 1980, 1981, 82.
And did you ever collaborate in any production, you and Morgan together, or it was always going to see theater together, seeing art together, friendship?
No, but there were times if I would be doing a reading, yes, not directly, but if I were doing a reading, say, of a new play by Jessica Hagedorn, Morgan might have been there, say, responding in very colorful and deep ways to the text. So, yes, I don't think we ever collaborated directly, but I felt Morgan was always there, and she knew what was happening to you because she saw so many plays and so many shows. So she was aware of you, even if you were not necessarily aware that she had been in the audience.
One of my favorite memories of last year, and one thing that was instrumental to me in the grieving process of Morgan's passing, was that you and I went to receive the award for her induction in the Off-Broadway Hall of Fame.
Oh, yes, at Sardi's, I believe.
Yes.
Off-Broadway Alliance, I think that's what it's called, yeah.
It was incredibly important to me to be there with you, celebrating her, getting that award, and bringing it to La Mama, which now it's in the archive or somewhere at La Mama, right?
Yes, and I just wanted to add that the person who received the award for Morgan was her one of her dear friends, who is also a theater producer, named Melanie Joseph, who was the director of the Foundry Theater. And so, yes, I remember Melanie speaking about Morgan.
Yeah. You know, every time I saw Morgan, and I still do when I think of her or I feel her presence or whatever, I always, before we ever even said anything, I would open up my arms and I would say, Morgan, I love you so much. And then she would open up her arms and we dance our way to a hug. And I did
Nice.
that every single time to the very last time I saw her.
And where did you meet Morgan? Was that when you were a student at Pace?
I met her.
Pace University.
Yeah, I was very lucky to have her as a teacher for 3 years at the Actors Studio Drama School. And she took interest in me somehow. And I was incredibly honored that someone like that would take interest in me. And after that, she became also an incredible friend. We went to see the opera together. When I graduated, she knows that I'm from Costa Rica, so she knew that Oscar Isaac was making his debut on Broadway, and he said, "You should see it's the first time a Central American."
The sign in Sidney Brustein's window.
Yes, that was so good.
By
so
Lorraine Hansberry.
That meant a lot to me, a Central American on Broadway.
That's right. He's from
Guatemala.
Guatemala.
Yeah, she's from Guatemala.
Yes, I saw his Hamlet.
Yeah, at the public.
Yes.
Even Al Pacino went to see that, I think.
Yes, Al Pacino was sitting behind me. Yes, I went with Kiku Sakai, who's also on our La Mama staff. And we both saw Oscar Isaac's Hamlet.
He's incredible.
With Al Pacino.
I know. I dream to someday work with Mr. Isaac and Pedro Pascal. One day, even if it's just opening a door and saying, "Welcome."
Oh,
that's all I need.
More than opening a door. You should have a speech or a monologue.
One day. Nikki, do you feel her presence? I do. When you told me about
I think she's laughing right now.
I think she is.
Hello.
Hi,
Morgan.
Morgan, I love you so much. When you told me about the Obie, it was also around the time that I got news about my new job at NYU and things like that. And I was like, oh, Nikki, Morgan is making her rounds. She's just visited and saying, hey,
I believe.
I'm still looking after you. It's what I felt. Yeah. Do you feel her presence sometimes?
Yes.
Yeah.
And there are several theater artists whose presence I feel at different times. And one of them is Morgan, and another is, again, Jeff Weiss, who I think is still present here somewhere.
Yeah. You mentioned something about sometimes you have to wait 50 years. And people sometimes hear the award or we see the award, but we don't know what happened through the decades, right? So how did you first come to La Mama? Did you come to La Mama in your early 20s? Or?
Yes. I was a student at Oberlin. No, at Oberlin
you
College.
were at Oberlin.
And it was probably during it was either the fall break or the spring break or both. And yes, what would I do with some pals from Oberlin? We would go to the theater, mostly Broadway. That's how I first saw my first Stephen Sondheim musical called Company. With the great Elaine Stritch. And, but then, so we'd see all these Broadway shows and plays. And, but through my reading of the Village Voice, which was the weekly newspaper, the weekly cool newspaper that came out every Wednesday. And the Village Voice even came out at Oberlin College, at the Oberlin Co-op. And I would on that day that it was a weekly paper, I would rush down to the co-op and get my copy of the Village Voice and see. And in those days, the theater pages, there were about 6 or 7 or 8 pages on theater alone.
Yeah.
So that was the Village Voice. And then, so I knew that besides seeing all the new plays and musical theater on Broadway, I had to go downtown to the East Village, and it was somewhere on East 4th Street to go to La Mama. And one of the first shows I saw at La Mama was a play it was a crazy play called, it was probably in the first floor theater called Heaven Grand in Amber Orbit by Jackie Curtis. And oh my God, there were all these, drag queens on stage. And I remember one of the actors, one of the drag queens in the play, yelling at someone in the audience and saying, "How dare you come here? I thought we broke up. You're my ex.
Wow.
You shouldn't be here in the audience." And then I said to myself, wait a minute. Is this part of the play?
Yeah.
Is that part of the text? Or is she actually breaking the fourth wall to speak to her ex-boyfriend? So that was the first time I ever experienced that break beyond the fourth wall. And I said, oh, this is really interesting and scary and wonderful. And then I think the next time I went to La MaMa was to see Medea and then Electra and the Trojan Women, which were all directed by Andrei Serban from Romania and with music by Elizabeth Swados. And I remember Ellen Stewart, the founder and the actual MaMa of La MaMa, standing at the stage door, and somehow she already took an interest in me. I was a very young person, and she said, "Oh, come here, baby. You walk in with the audience." So stuff, and that was the beginning of the Trojan Women. You were actually thrown in with the crowd of audience members walking through the environment of where the Trojan women were taken prisoner, I guess, to Greece. And it was very dark and scary, but then all these actors were surrounding the audience, chanting in ancient Greek. And there was even a bear, an actor playing a bear who was in a cage with Helen of Troy, whoever was playing Helen of Troy at that moment. But I
think the cage is at the archive now, right?
Yes.
Is that the one?
The cage is there in the archive with the bear, with the bear's head. And I remember very clearly Medea and Electra, the original Medea and Electra of those productions is an actress named Priscilla Smith. Oh, she was fantastic. Yes, she was very special, Priscilla. And I saw her, she created those roles and I saw her perform them. And there was some other actors that I'm very lucky to have become friends with through the years, like Valois Mickens, Ani Johnson, and even our current artistic director, Mia Yu, went on to, is a very wonderful, powerful actress. And she played both Medea and Electra.
With a real snake wrapped around her
she always had
shoulders.
Yes, she had this live snake crawling around her neck.
Yeah. So how long was it before you actually did work for La MaMa? And how would you describe what you do? We heard he's a curator, he's an artist, he's a performer, so how would you describe what you do?
Well, I had no idea or intention. I had no idea of what a curator did or how they did it. And, before I got to work as a curator at La MaMa, my first curatorial job, as it were, was from Mark Russell at PS 122, Performance Space 122. And there was an opening for a program. It was during one of their annual benefit fundraisers. And I guess Mark needed someone to host or MC this showcase of performers downstairs, and in their downstairs theater. And I believe Penny Arcade was hosting in the upstairs theater. And I think I surprised both Mark and everyone, because how did I curate this evening was by calling up these friends who were already artists, actors, performance artists, monologists, and dancers. Everyone from Yoshiko Chuma to John Kelly to Split Britches, Peggy Shaw and Lois Weaver. And they were all very happy to become part of this evening at PS 122. And then I did a show at La MaMa. Yeah, I think the year was 2000. And it was like, I called it Salon Paraiso. And again, I asked for artist friends to be part of that evening, and including Reno, Christine Donnelly, Bonnie Alvarez, who's now a playwright in Los Angeles, and Lavinia Co-op, who was in town at that moment, from Blue Lips. And they all performed in my Salon Paraiso. So I think Ellen Stewart, MaMa, remembered that. And in the year, several months later, I got a phone call, and I said hello, and said, "Oh, baby, this is Ellen. This is your mama." And I said, "Really?" And at first, I didn't believe that it was actually Ellen Stewart on the phone. And I said, "Oh, yes, Ellen, what can I do for you?" And she said, "Oh, baby, you know, I'm programming 3 different spaces. The Annex, which is the big theater, and the first floor theater, and the club, where the second floor theater had become the club and of La MaMa. And all the other curators had left." And she said, "Baby, this is one theater too much. Why don't you program the club?"
Yeah,
baby. I said, to myself, I said, "I don't know anything about curating whatever." And but then I heard Ellen say, "Oh, yes, you did a very nice show last fall.
Yeah.
Just ask your friends.
Perfect.
Tell your friends to ask them if they want to do a show at La MaMa."
Yeah.
So that's how I began my journey, as it were, of curating.
Yeah.
And then because I really enjoyed going to see plays and shows every single night, that's what I did. And when we were young, we had energy to do that. Sometimes I'd see 2 or 3 different shows in the same day. Yeah. I'd go to the matinee.
You still do that.
I'd go to the evening performance, and then I'd go to the midnight performance at a club. Could have been the Pyramid Club or Limbo Lounge or Chandelier, which was Carmelita Tropicana's space. Yeah. So that's how I learned curation, was just by going out to see things.
What is the importance of showing up, doing the work? You're not really, we don't really have a plan.
The one time I was in therapy,
just
what I learned from my therapist, the therapist told me, "Oh, it seems, Nicky, that you work in a field where you have to show up."
Yeah.
So that's what I learned in psychotherapy.
Well, imagine if you would
I had to pay money to hear that from the lovely therapist who said, "You have to show up."
It's the artistic calling doesn't make sense. It's like a fire, and you you got to do something with it. You don't know what to do with it. It's what I feel. But what I want to ask you is, the artistic calling, it is a calling. It doesn't make much sense. It's like a fire and something that you try to ignore, but it keeps calling you. At least that's what it's felt like.
Yes, it's like it is a vocation.
It is a vocation.
I mean, I remember I wanted to be a priest.
Yeah, I did too.
Until I said to myself, "Oh, why should I be a priest? I can." Yeah. Then the theater called, which was, had its own kind of priests and nuns running around with the,
I don't think we ever talked about this, but there was a time where I seriously considered being a priest, and I'm like, no, well, I'm too gay to be a priest, I guess.
Oh, really?
I don't know if that would have been a problem or not, but in the end, it was not the calling.
Yes.
But in there's that part that's the ambition. The calling, but then there are these ambitions and identities and idea of success that we might have of what that calling is. But looking back, what ideas did you have to change? What did you have to let go of? Because maybe you thought that this calling meant that you were gonna, I don't know, be...
Well, yes, of course.
What did you have to let go
there
of?
was a time when, I want to be on Broadway. Oh, I want to be in film.
Yeah.
I want to be a star.
Yes, exactly.
And but then I figured somewhere along the line, I figured, yes, there are other ways of being a star. And there was something about the theater and the community, the communal aspect of it, where that's where I felt comfortable being with other people, being with my peers, and working towards a common goal.
Yeah.
So that's what drew me to the theater. I was trained as a classical pianist at first. Yes, I never knew how do you pronounce pianist or pianist? Yes, so either one I think is correct. But yes, so I had years of communing with Mozart and Beethoven and Chopin, a lot with Chopin. But I actually ended up in conservatory, Oberlin Conservatory, but hearing 100 other people playing the same concerto in the practice hall drove me nuts. So I said, no, this is not for me. And I was drawn more to classmates who were involved with theater and acting and auditioning for plays. And so I auditioned, I remember, for this, it was a musical called Kiss Me, Kate. And I was just auditioning for, I think these characters were called roustabouts. Is that a word? And it was just, it was all the extras, all the boy extras on stage running around. And I had to sing a song for the audition. And that's where I got bold. And fearless and fierce, because, I didn't even have vocal lessons at that time, but I thought I could sing. So, I probably sang something by Judy Garland, like, Swanee, how I love you, my... okay, never mind.
What do you mean, never mind? So, okay, Nicky, as a queer Filipino artist that grew up in this downtown experimental theater.
That's another story, but maybe we don't have time for that.
We might.
Like what is it being gay, and then what is it being queer, and then what's the journey through that, and how did that affect who I was as an actor,
being
and a musician,
and a Filipino, and then and
a Filipino,
and
an Asian,
and being in the
Asian
experimental theater scene, right?
Yes.
How did that affect how you move through the world nowadays?
Well, in those days, what am I talking about? 1984, 85. It wasn't easy for a person, yes, for an actor of color to get a job. And I went on all these auditions, and I wasn't getting anywhere until I met what I would someone I would consider a soulmate through. It was through one of my teachers at NYU, because I did go to NYU MFA program, and one of my teachers there was Robbie McCauley, who was this fantastic Black actress, and she taught acting and voice, vocal work, mostly Kristen Linklater's vocal work. And she said, she said to me one day, and this was after I graduated, she said, you should meet this young woman who's also, she reminds me of you. You remind me of her. And her name, she just wrote a play that's being done at the Public Theater. What was it called? Where Mississippi meets the Amazon, something like that. And her name was Jessica Hagedorn, and she was Filipina. She came here when she was she grew up, born and raised in the Philippines, but she came here with her mother when she was 14, and she lived in San Francisco. And it was later, and she wrote poetry. She was a poet, and she had these 2 books of poetry, which I remember, and one was called, the first one had a black and white cover, beautiful, called Dangerous Music. Is that what it was, Jessica? Dangerous Music. And that was an apt, perfect description of Jessica's poetry, Dangerous Music. And I've read that from cover to cover many times. And then I met Jessica, and we were kind of simpatico, and then we got to know each other, and she would sometimes help me with my writing, and she had a group. It was Jessica, Robbie McCauley, and another Black actress named Lori Carlos. And they had a group called Thought Music. And they did a piece called Teeny Town, which was way ahead of its time, about race, about gender, about feminism. They even had a performance poem called Vulva. They were talking about their vulvas. Yes. And it was very funny and very fierce and scary. And I don't know, Jessica asked me to bring my violin, and sometimes I sat in with them. I remember they did a performance at a performance art venue that no longer exists except virtually, called Franklin Furnace. And the director of Franklin Furnace was Martha Wilson. But Teeny Town was hatched, shall we say, at Franklin Furnace in that basement. And I just learned so much just by sitting in my chair with the violin, listening to these 3 women, Jessica, Robbie, Lori. And unfortunately, both Robbie and Lori have since passed on into the universe. And Jessica carries on, and I carry on. But I feel, again, the presence of Robbie McCauley and Lori Carlos around
carries on.
Carries on.
We carry it. We
carry them in our...
I mean, you do feel that at La Mama. The first day I walked into La Mama, and I didn't even know what it was. The energy of Eleni is in the room. Like, you feel that there's like a...
Yes.
We are all part of this madness.
Yes.
Nicky, your work has taken you to many places. You said you were in Poland when you heard about the award. I know you've done work with Norway Now. You've performed in Nicaragua. You've performed in Japan. Where has your work taken you? Where else?
Well, I have to thank, I'm surrounded with big sisters, and two of those big sisters, one is Jessica Hagedorn, and two others that I actually worked with and still work with. One is Meredith Monk, who everyone knows is an interdisciplinary creator, composer, choreographer, another multi-talented artist. I guess we call that interdisciplinary, and who weaves all of these forms into one package. So Meredith choreographs, she composes, and she sings. So I learned so much from Meredith. But Meredith went on a tour many times, and that's how I first got to actually, it was the second time I saw Paris was with Meredith, and we performed as part of the Festival d'Automne, and it was at a theater it was actually outside Paris called Bobigny, and maybe that was the name of the town and also the name of the theater, and we were performing this piece by Meredith called Specimen Days, which was about the American Civil War, or at least the American Civil War through Meredith's eyes. And Specimen Days comes from the title of a book of photos, photos and portraiture by Walt Whitman of American Civil War soldiers and the time of that period, 1860s. So so Meredith created a whole operatic score for Specimen Days, and I was very honored to be playing the keyboard and singing with all of her other artists. She had a collective called The House. So it was Meredith Monk and The House, and then she created what we call now the vocal ensemble, which were original vocal works that from her own vocal vocabulary that she created. And and we went to Strasbourg in France, and Paris, and Parma, Italy. And I remember after the gig in Parma was finished, and we performed at the Opera House of Parma, which is the birthplace of Giuseppe Verdi.
Wow.
And we performed in that opera house. And then I had already made friends with Mary Schultz and her husband, Carl Goldhagen, and the actor, director, teacher, Pablo Vela. And the four of us went, we had so much money in our pockets. It was the early 1980s, and we drove in a little Fiat car from Venice. Oh my God, that was the first time I saw Venice, and it was like being in the first time when you get to the train station in Venice and the doors open and you see the Grand Canal. It's like discovering Oz or something. And anyway, we traveled in 12 days from Venezia to Rome. And we hit all of these very special cities in mostly northern central Italy, everything from Padua, Urbino. I'm trying to remember. Oh, that city, which was the town of Ravenna. and the town of there was this beautiful movie called The Garden of the Finzi Continis, and we were in that town where that film took place, and all I remember just being with Pablo, Mary Schultz, and Carl Goldhagen, traveling through all of these towns in Italy. And mostly Carl and Pablo would know where all the great art was, which was sometimes in churches, because all of the great art of the Renaissance and even to the Baroque were in the churches. And then because we went to so many churches, I knew where the relics of the saint, Saint Anthony's tongue or Saint Catherine's heart,
Bone,
and they would just play along with me. I said, let's go see Saint Anthony's whatever body part, and they said, okay, we'll go. But the thing is, then we would see all of this great art in the church also. Anyway, that was Italy in 1982.
And well, again, to go back to this idea of you as a New Yorker traveling, seeing art, coming back to curate shows, I think you still see the influence.
And I must say, I'm jumping ahead, but then after Meredith, I worked and continue to work with Yoshiko Shuma, who is a Japanese performance artist.
You went to Japan with her.
And we went to Japan, but
you might go again.
First, we went to Central and Eastern Europe, and to places I would never have imagined going to, except Yoshiko insisted that we go to Poland and Prague in Czechoslovakia, Bratislava in Slovakia, and then we were in Budapest in Hungary, and another town called Szeged, and Serbia, and we even spent time in a castle in Steinach, Austria, where all the people were playing golf in Lederhosen. Oh my gosh, probably all ex-Nazis. And then and we also went to Tallinn, Estonia, Vilnius, Lithuania. I have to tell this story about Vilnius, where I had found this. It was 1993, and I had found this pamphlet, I don't know, at the airport, and it said, these are the gay bars of Lithuania. But they weren't bars because they were. So we had this address, and this big burly Lithuanian presenter said, I have to go with you. You can't go alone. Yeah. So I was there with Mark Bennett and Robert Black, and we went to, then the presenter took us to the address on the pamphlet, and it was this apartment complex. And then we had to knock on this door, and I kid you not, this boy looked through the slit in the door, and he said, how did you come here? And I said, I read it in the pamphlet. Is this you? And they said, yes. And then the presenter said, okay, I don't need to stay here anymore. Just go to your own devices. And where the young man opened his door and welcomed us. Oh, yes. So it was me, Mark Bennett, and Robert Black, and and David Herrigal, who was our straight tech guy who wanted to come also. And we walked into it was an apartment, and all these boys were like lounging around, drinking vodka and smoking cigarettes, because everyone smoked cigarettes in those days. And that was the gay bar, was this apartment.
But that's great. This is you experiencing that queerness and art world in America, in New York City, and around the world. And if we see La Mama moves to this day, you have representation from all kinds of, all walks of life. You see Japanese dancers, you see Indonesian
Yes, we had a
dancers,
great time in
you
Japan
see-
too.
Yeah, you see all of that has contributed to the way you curate your shows to
I
some
suppose,
extent.
yes.
I mean, it is there.
Oh, yes, and there was this thing we did with Yoshiko in Japan called the Living Room Project.
Yeah.
So we went to this beautiful suburban town with beautiful traditional, all the houses were traditional Japanese architecture, you know, like this, like this, like this. And we would perform during the week for several families in the town. This was arranged by the young Chamber of Commerce of Tsurugi. That was the name of the town, Tsurugi. And so every day we would go to a different house, and they would have these lavish dinners. Oh my gosh, Japanese dinners with jiggers of sake, and then once if you emptied your jigger of sake, it would suddenly be refilled.
Yeah.
And you would have to, you know, to be polite, you'd have to keep drinking. And then, but then at the end of dinner, Yoshiko would have each of us do a performance.
Yeah.
So then that's when the families could see, oh, this one plays the piano, this one dances, this one plays the violin or whatever, or the cello, or the double bass, that was Robert Black. And so that by the end of the week, when we had our full evening performance at the temple, it was, I guess the local, it was either Buddhist or Shinto temple. They all the families came, and they didn't have to see this work, you know, cold.
Yeah.
They had already seen us perform in their houses. And so that was so the Living Room Project was a great way to introduce audience to, you know, avant-garde performance work. So, and then I just remember when we were setting up on stage for the full length, it was called, what was it then? Crash Orchestra, because it was a combination of dance and musicians, and with music composed by Mark Bennett and Robert Ian.
But
all the families like were waving at us.
But imagine the clash of New York City avant-garde meeting with the Japanese avant-garde, and what could happen?
Yes, well, that's Yoshiko.
Yes.
Yoshiko Chuma has all of those elements within her. And anyway, my point is that was a perfect way to introduce the audience to Yoshiko's work, was by actually performing in their house and having dinner with them and drinking. And so that's what we did in Japan.
I also learned during the last Christmas at Nicky Land that at some point you were performing and sharing a room backstage with Marsha P. Johnson. What's that story all about?
Oh, that was when I was briefly a member of Hot Peaches.
Okay.
Which is a group formed by the writer, performer Jimmy Camicia. And he had a piece, and this was when the AIDS crisis was manifesting itself in terrible ways. But Jimmy Camicia wrote a play called Concentrated Camp. And yes, I was in it. The performer Michael Lynch was in it, and we shared a dressing room with Marsha P. Johnson, the great legendary Stonewall.
So what do you remember from her, Marsha?
Marsha, what I remember is how sweet how sweet she was,
Yeah.
and what a lovely human being.
Yeah. Well, you just reminded us of, those early stages of the AIDS epidemic. And,
Yeah.
last year we had, I don't remember his last name, Fabio
Cerstich?
Yes.
Cerstich?
Fabio Cerstich.
From Milano.
From Milan. He came to make this presentation about artists from the early 80s.
Yes, it was beautiful. He made these films
that have had,
especially with the people who survived.
Yeah.
Like if it was a mother who survived her son, or an artist who survived a colleague who died.
Yeah, they were
like that.
Painters, photographers, artists from the East Village that died of AIDS during that time.
Or forgotten.
And they were forgotten.
Yes.
And there was something incredibly important to me, because I went to see this presentation with you and Ozzy Rodriguez, who ran the archive for many years. So to me, as a gay man, to walk into that room, the first thing I remember was you and Ozzy were hesitant to walk in, and I was like, what's going on? And then you stopped me, and you guys said to me, Erick, we lived through it. Many of these people that they're going to talk about, we knew them. Mm-hmm. You don't know how many of our friends died. And as a gay man, I've read about it, I've seen it in film, but I was never as close as being next to you and Ozzy.
Right.
And talking.
Well, I remember my first boyfriend, his name was David Underwood. Mm-hmm. And, he was, besides being gay, he was a heroin addict. Mm-hmm. And he unfortunately caught HIV and had and died with full-blown AIDS. Mm-hmm. So yes. So David, I remember David.
So what do you wish people understood about that moment in history beyond the mythology of it? Like, what do you wish these younger generations, that I feel like as we get distance from chaotic moments in history, people tend to
I, as being a curator at MaMa, helped brought me to some, shall we say, contemporary artists, queer artists, who were actually quite curious about those times in the late 1980s and early to mid 1990s. One of them was Dan Fishback, who challenged me to start curating all the younger queer artists, performance artists, who were mainly performing in clubs, probably in Bushwick and other places in Brooklyn. Yeah. And so I remember dear Dan Fishback, challenging me to and I said, well, why don't you bring these people to La MaMa, and we can have a festival? And that was the beginning of Squirts.
Oh, wow.
Squirts. So our queer performance series, which goes on to this day, now curated by Paris Alexander, who's doing a great job, I think. And the other one who came to me like a year and a half ago, was Morgan Jenness, who was researching the life of Frank Maya, who was one of the first gay comics, and who wanted to bridge the gap between downtown and TV. So Morgan came to me and said, I want to do this show about Frank and my response to Frank's work. And they called it, Can I Be Frank?
We went to see.
Yes, and it became a big hit. And I think it's will have another revival, I believe, at the Soho Playhouse.
Great.
And I'm just so happy and thrilled for Morgan Jenness.
Yeah. So do you feel that your work is building the future preserving the past, interrupting the present, or all of the above?
Yes, all of the above.
I think it's all of the above.
I think
for
it's
sure.
all of the, and that's La Mama too.
That is La Mama.
It's
too.
all of the above.
That's all of the, yeah, truly is. I know that you still have many projects. You're curating the up and coming La Mama Moves Festival.
Yes, I believe it's now our 21st festival. Yeah.
You're still curating the club at La Mama.
Yes.
And I believe you want to write a memoir. Is that so?
Well, yes, everyone now from my generation is writing their memoirs. And I figure, okay, mine is going to be different from this one and that one and that one. But yes, it's, I wouldn't call it just a memoir. I would also call it a history or herstory of the streets outside our door of the East Village and what was going on.
Yeah.
Because there was an explosion of performance in the mid 1980s, all the way up to the 2000s, and so I guess, I suppose, I've been a part of that, and so it's,
yeah, for sure,
it's going to be through my eyes.
So what feels more urgent to you now, or more important? What feels less important to you?
What do you mean?
In your relationship with time, you said you're going to be writing a memoir. So I think as we get, I can only guess, but as you get older, your relationship with time changes.
Yes.
So what feels more urgent now?
Well, it's urgent while I have my memory.
Yeah.
And this is from a song by Meredith Monk. Yeah. I still have my memory. While I still have my memory, I need to begin.
And do you feel freer as a performer as
perhaps? Perhaps.
Yeah.
Again, Morgan helped with that, and a vocal teacher named Barbara Mayer Gustern, who unfortunately was murdered and passed away. But she helped me find the center. Can I say this? The center of my voice.
Yeah.
Yes. So
I have this very vivid memory of running into Morgan at the cafeteria of Pace and University. She sat down with me, as Morgan would, and she was coming from the trial.
Yes. I remember going to one of the final, or maybe it was the final day of the trial, and I sat with Morgan listening to the trial of Barbara's killer.
A real friend. She would not only go to your shows, even after you're gone, she would show up.
Well, you know, Morgan always wanted to do her own cabaret performance, and she wanted me to help her do that. And then unfortunately she died suddenly. And but I did a performance called For Morgan at Pangea last August and October. So and that was for Morgan.
Yeah. Are there artists that you're currently quietly paying attention to, see what's going on? One thing that I find really interesting is like my friend Sammy Rivas, who I helped produce a movie recently. He's bringing a show to La Mama. Booth McGowan, who's now working with Yoshiko Shuma. He's bringing a show to La Mama. There's Harris Singer bringing in, what's the name of the show?
Something about Dollywood.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So
absolutely.
What's so interesting to me is like I meet these people as friends. We end up collaborating here and there. But now to see those two worlds, the younger generations working with you, working with Yoshiko, and now bringing their shows to La Mama. It's incredible. That's what this is about. So
so I still sort of keep up with who all the young people are.
So who should we pay attention to nowadays? Is there someone you can mention or not really?
Well, yes, there's a young choreographer who just graduated from Oberlin College, who's the daughter of one of the downtown legends, Lucy Sexton, and her daughter is Annabelle Sexton Daldry, because the mother is Sexton and the father is Daldry, and she just did 2 sold-out shows at Dixon Place. And with, oh my God, they were like, Dixon Place was completely packed for 2 nights. And I was so happy to be able to see that show. And Annabelle also is, while making her own new choreography, is honoring the choreography that her mother and her mother's dance performance partner, Annie Jobst, made in the 1980s, called Dance Noise. So Annabelle had a whole section which was a tribute to Dance Noise, and she got the choreography perfectly. And so I think Annabelle is a new star is born choreographically.
Love that. What do you hope that younger artists don't repeat from your generation?
Oh, well, that's a very touchy subject, because in some ways, yes, like artists, when I see younger artists trying to like reinvent the wheel, but I think they have to find that out for themselves.
Love that answer. We all do, right?
Okay, yes, because everything's been done.
Everything
has been done under the sun.
Yeah.
But it's how you make it new, because it's you are a different person from the one that created it years ago.
Yeah. And I mean, we just saw the King Lear recently at MaMa.
Yes, even King Lear can be recreated and made new. And as we see from Karin Kunrad's company,
Oedipus, I went to see that recently too. I know you recommended it to me.
Oh, Oedipus, say the Brits.
I know.
But very beautiful.
I loved it.
Robert Ick.
I can't believe that
the director.
A 2,000-year-old play, and we all know what's going to happen. People were at the edge of their seats.
Of course they are.
You couldn't hear a pin. You know, everybody was so quiet the moment she was going to reveal and realize that she was the mother.
Yeah.
How is that possible?
And these
that
2 wonderful actors,
Yes,
Mark Strong and Leslie Manville. Yeah.
So it keeps happening. Okay, Nicky, it's been a great conversation.
Is that it?
I feel.
Is that it?
Oh, I hope it is not. I feel very, very lucky to call you my friend. I feel very
well. Thank you for doing this.
Lucky that
I don't know what we talked about.
I don't know, but I feel that Morgan was right. We should pay attention to Nicky Paraiso.
Okay.
All right. Last question. What does La Mama mean to you?
La Mama. Yes, well, La Mama is like my home away from home, and that's who Ellen Stewart was as the sort of shepherd and the mother, the protector, the one who, the catalyst. Yes, in some ways, Ellen was a catalyst, and just allowing you to find out who you are.
Yeah.
She never tried to, well, she had suggestions, but she never tried to impose her own aesthetic onto you.
Yeah.
And she wanted you to find your own way of doing things.
And you know, Nicky,
making theater.
I can testify and say that through Mia, that's what I felt through La Mama.
Oh yes, and Mia Yu continues that legacy.
Yeah.
From MaMa.
Yeah. Well, Nicky Paraiso,
as Mia says, we are all La Mama now.
We're all La Mama now. Nicky Paraiso, it's time to break the plates. Get out of here. I love you, brother. Your family. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eric.
Get out of here.
All right. Goodbye.